Comes first. This is ABC-7 Xtra.
Good evening, I'm Saul Saenz, and this is a live edition of ABC-7 Extra. Thank you for sharing your Sunday evening with us before you start your work week, of course. And tonight we're coming to you live as the migrant situation in our city continues to evolve by the day, a crisis intensifying to the point city officials were forced to close down Father Ram Avenue directly in front of Sacred Heart Church. And the scenes are overwhelming. Thousands of migrants camping out in front and around that church. Hundreds more are camping out near the border after crossing the Rio Grande. That's the international border between U.S. and Mexico. But making matters worse, tens of thousands more are expected to pour into the borderland once Title 42 expires. By some estimates, as many as 13 migrants crossing the border on a daily basis. City officials are rushing to open shelters while current shelters are at capacity, tearing at the seams. Border Patrol and CBP are processing migrants and releasing them. No more room at processing shelters. Now, ABC-7 has been bringing you continuing coverage of the migrant crisis almost on a daily basis. While many are being released by Border Patrol agents to the streets, just as many, if not more, are rushing through gaps in the border barrier. I went down to Sacred Heart Church to ask just how many were processed by Border Patrol officials and have documentation. As you're about to find out, many never surrendered to Border Patrol agents or presented themselves at a port of entry. Many who tell me they endured harsh conditions in Juarez and just had to cross by the thousands into El Paso.
De Caracas, Venezuela.
Sheila Mora and her son arrived from Venezuela to Juarez 7 months ago. Mother and son came to the streets of downtown El Paso just last week, and although conditions may seem less than optimal on these streets outside Sacred Heart Church with the stench of urine and suspected diseases, Mora says she prefers this over life in Juarez.
The cartel is disastrous with us because we are migrants. They've stolen from us, taken all of our belongings.
And according to Mora, those are just the material belongings. She says children and mothers are being kidnapped by cartel members.
They've stolen children. Just the other day, a group who was with us, they took 3 women with little girls. There were 6 little girls. I was there. We were all there, really.
Those extreme humanitarian conditions prompted extreme measures. Mora says she and her son have surrendered to border enforcement officials several times, only to be turned back to Juarez.
This final time, I went in through a hole in the fence where we were all running through.
I confirmed by talking to other Venezuelans that the hole in the border barrier is all too real. We saw evidence of that in my special report, Migrants on the Run, where we saw large holes cut out along the border fence.
Thousands of us have crossed, all of us who are here.
According to several migrants, thousands have entered the U.S. without ever being seen by border enforcement officials, never even processed. Many migrants I spoke with say they know the risks. They believe that because they're camping out by Sacred Heart Church, they can claim sanctuary and not be detained.
It's something we've been hearing for a long time.
Mother and son also know they can be separated at any time. Jesus has his grandmother's U.S. phone number written with a marker on his forearm in case that happens.
There are times when things are bad, the times that we have tried to pass and we're unable to. I feel sad then.
A 10-year-old forced to grow up on the road, traveling through several countries in search of the American dream, fleeing from kidnappers, crawling through holes in the fence, running and eluding capture to get to these downtown streets. And joining us to talk about the current migrant situation, what they believe will happen once Title 42 expires, and what can happen in the days to follow is John Martin, Director of the Opportunity Center for the Homeless. Also joining us is former Border Patrol Chief and former U.S. Representative Silvestre Reyes. Former Congressman Reyes is well known for his approach to stopping the flow of illegal migrants with his Hold the Line policy. And sitting next to him is El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser and Deputy City Manager Mario D'Agostino. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Now, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Martin. Your shelter is at capacity and you're being forced to decide between the city's homeless and migrants. How do you believe things will change once Title 42 is either lifted or expires?
In all honesty, I think the situation's going to get worse, and the question is how much. Currently, as of last night, we've got about 820 migrants that are staying outside of the shelter. So that does not include the 300 individuals that we have inside, which is a mix of what we call the local and the international homeless. But so that we don't neglect the needs of the local homeless population, and working with both the city and the county, we've designated a certain number of spaces for migrants. But the fact of the matter is we simply don't have the capacity to be able to bring them all in. And it is quite concerning.
Because you think it's going to get worse?
I do believe it's going to get worse. Now, if you ask me to quantify that number, I simply can't do it at this point. I've heard the estimates, anywhere from 20 to 40,000 that are waiting in our sister city to the south. But the question is, what is that impact going to be? But unfortunately, we're not in a position to absorb any additional impact because of what we're seeing on the ground today.
Well, let's go to you, Mr. Reyes. As a former Border Patrol chief and very recognized for your efforts, you've seen the large crowds downtown as well as the crowds of migrants camping by the border, getting across the river. Your thoughts on current Border Patrol efforts? We spoke earlier during the week. You don't think that a lot is being done, do you?
Well, I don't know if anybody else is offended, but I am when you have the Secretary of Homeland Security say that the border was secure yesterday, the border is secure today, and the border will be secured tomorrow.
Is it?
So the obvious question is, all these migrants that are camped out, as Mr. Martin just described, and you're asking a very valid question, is how many more are going to come after Title 42 is lifted? Are those figments of our imagination, or is it a failed policy? And if it is a failed policy, why hasn't it been addressed in the last 2 years?
Mr. Reyes, let me stop you for a second. Let me ask you bluntly and be as candid as you can. Do you think people are not doing their jobs?
Well, I think people are being kept from doing their jobs. I mean, I don't believe that the chief here likes looking the other way when we're seeing literally thousands of migrants all up and down the river. And the mayor and I were driving in this evening, and he was telling me, hey, there's more and more people turning up in neighborhoods all across the city, including the Upper Valley. And of course, those of us that live in that area know of the chases that go on way too often when migrants are being driven from the river area to other places where they can get away from the Border Patrol.
Mayor Alicia, you've oftentimes said El Paso police cannot remove migrants from Sacred Heart Church. Now, do you think the time has come to do just that before Title 42 expires? And we could see larger crowds, so do you think that something needs to happen now to remove those migrants before the crowds get even bigger?
Well, I think it's really important to understand that the El Paso Police Department does not enforce immigration laws, and they cannot enforce immigration laws. They're there to assist the Border Patrol, and it's up to the Border Patrol to do the job of the federal government. So now we're there to make sure that our asylum seekers are safe, but also our citizens. It's important that we make sure that the citizens of El Paso continue to be safe, but for you to say that the El Paso Police Department would enforce federal immigration laws, it's against the law for them to be able to do that.
However, some ordinances, some city ordinances, camping ordinances are being violated, right?
Okay, but again, they're not there. We're not, we have to open up all our shelters, and that's what we're doing. We put out a emergency disaster order that was put on last Sunday, and it was really basically to be prepared to open up the schools that were closed and kind of work with EPISD to get Moorhead School, Bassett School opened up. And so if you take them off the street, where are you going to put them? You can't put them across the street, so you have to have some sheltering. But then again, as we can only, through the FEMA funding that we have, we can only do people that have the A number. The A number is people that have gone through the immigration process, and
right.
So we'll continue. We'll be open probably first part of this week and be prepared to really hopefully move some people into the sheltering. But these shelterings, again, it's really important to understand they're not for permanent housing. They're strictly for, temporary housing, 24 to 72 hours max, and then once they can move to their next destination.
Right.
When you get an A number, and I think it's really important to know this, that once they get an A number and they go through the immigration process and they've been processed, they're legal in the U.S. and they're legal to move through the U.S. as they want to. So when we talk about helping them to get to their destination, whether it's New York, wherever they pick, they have the freedom to do that.
Okay, we're going to continue the conversation, but we're going to take a quick break. You're watching a special live edition of ABC-7 Extra Sunday. Still to come, we asked our viewers to send in questions. We'll have our guests try to answer those questions when we come back. But first, we hear from other migrants camped out in front of Sacred Heart Church who tell us how they arrived. You're watching ABC-7 Extra Sunday edition, where news comes first.
I came through the hole. There's a hole on the fence near mile marker 48. We're talking about a multitude. There were around 600 people, 700 just that night.
For over 47 years, the attorneys at Share Legate have been fighting and winning for our clients. For serious injury and wrongful death cases, the attorney you choose matters. Experience matters. Resources matter. And above all, results matter. The experienced attorneys at Share Legate believe every client's case should be taken seriously. No gimmicks, just results.
Using meth taught me everything about freedom, only not like you think. It taught me how easy it is to lose your freedom, how meth can take control until you find yourself doing whatever meth tells you to do. Before you get there, while you still can, take a stand for yourself. If you feel yourself losing your freedom to meth, ask for help. Accept the help. It's worth it. You have the power to be truly free and be the person you want to be. I know. I'm Jan, and I'm free from meth.
If you or someone you know is struggling with meth, call 1-800-662-HELP for 24-hour free and confidential treatment referral. Learn more at samhsa.gov/meth.
600 ESPN El Paso is your source for sports. And get ABC-7 News updates weekdays from 7:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. 600 ESPN El Paso, a partner with ABC-7, where news comes first.
93.1 Kiss FM, today's best mix. Where Mike and Iris starts your day. Open the 93.1 Kiss FM mobile app.
We definitely have received reports on chickenpox. We have received reports on COVID-19. And as such, we might continue receiving reports of on other conditions. But so far, measles, which is of public health importance, we haven't received any reports on that.
That was El Paso Health Authority Dr. Héctor Carranza earlier this month talking about health concerns many are facing on the streets of El Paso. Welcome back to ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition. I also want to welcome back John Martin, Director of the Opportunity Center for the Homeless. Also joining us is former Border Patrol Chief and former U.S. Representative Silvestre Reyes. Former Congressman Reyes is well known for his approach to stopping the flow of illegal immigrants with his Hold the Line policy. And sitting next to him is El Paso Mayor Oscar Leisure and Deputy City Manager Mario D'Agostino. Now, I want to start with you this time around, Mr. D'Agostino. You just heard our health authority talking about all the health issues that could be down there and potentially could arise. Was this going to get worse once Title 42 is lifted or expires?
Well, you know, what we're seeing right now is we're seeing a lot of the undocumented are in the streets of downtown El Paso. And so Title 42 going away is not going to change that situation. So until we can stop the flow of them coming into the city, then that's going to continue to rise. We do have Customs and Border Patrol that's coming out, and they're starting to process some of the family members and start to do some of the processing so that they can start to track to get through the processing line. But with that, it takes time. There's well over 2,500 was the count this morning. and in the streets just around the Sacred Heart. And so with that, there's a large congestion of people, and so that is a risk. What's the city of El Paso doing? Well, we have plenty of porta potties out there. We have hand sanitizing stations. We're going through multiple times a day, every day, cleaning the streets, cleaning the trash, making sure everything's removed. The porta potties are sanitized multiple times per day, and that's something we're going to keep up with so that we can hopefully prevent some of those diseases from spreading.
Mr. Mayor, are you getting pressure from your constituents to say, all right, we need to remove these large crowds from the streets? Are you getting that pressure?
Well, you know, it's what we are hearing is there are a lot in the streets, but also in the neighborhoods that we have to really work on. And I did call Chief Good on Saturday and talk to him about making sure that the Border Patrol continues to do their job and goes into the neighborhoods and continues to make sure they're safe. But we're increasing patrol. We're increasing the DPS. We're increasing the police presence, and we'll continue to increase that to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe. That is our number one priority, that our citizens are safe. And one thing that, you know, let's not forget something, and something that's really important. The immigration process is broken, and until the government and Congress fixes it, it will continue to be broken. And as a community, we cannot continue to do this forever and ever and ever. You know, we've gotten a lot of money from the federal government. We're very, very thankful. We're up to almost $27.5 million that we've gotten. So it's not on the back of the local taxpayers. But again, there has to be an end game, and right now we don't see one. So it's going to be very important, because, I mean, your question was, is the local citizens getting frustrated? And we all are getting frustrated that the immigration process is broken, and there's no end game at this point.
Just to let our viewers know, when you mention Chief Good, you're talking about Chief Anthony Good, new Anthony Scott Good, the newly installed Border Patrol Sector Chief. Speaking of, Mr. Reyes, both sides of the aisle, both Republicans and Democrats, keep crying out for immigration reform. We've heard it since 2019, when we had that surge back then, yet we still have the same issues. Speaking from the inside, when you were congressman, why has nothing been done?
Simple answer is politics. You can blame both sides, Democrats and Republicans, and actually all sides. Independents have a role in that as well. Until people start voting members of Congress, both the Senate and the House, out on that issue, just like on guns, nothing will get done, because it's too easy to finger point left and right. You know, I've worked in the immigration service for 26 and a half years before going to Congress. So when I arrived, I was hopeful that we were going to be able to do something about it.
Is it just really hard to move the needle on an issue like this?
It's virtually impossible, because of the politics, and part of the process. It's not so much that the process is broken. Yes, it is broken, but there's an unwillingness to do what is right, so that for the benefit of this country.
Okay, thank you so much. We're going to take another quick break. You're watching ABC-7 Extra. When we come back, we'll show you numbers released by CBP showing which city is the epicenter of the migrant surge. But before we go to break, I asked migrants downtown how they knew to cross and go directly to Sacred Heart Church. We'll be right back.
Because more than one fellow migrant has arrived here, and people have helped them. And that person has told everyone, so we know where to get help. Many arrived walking, others arrived by car, others have received a helping hand. They helped us because they know the need we have.
She inspires. She loves unconditionally. She is giving. She is fearless. She's protective. She is sweet. She is tough. She is a best friend. She is forgiving. She is admired. She is missed. She is loved. We are born of love. Love is our mother. The Viva Auto Group celebrates all moms.
Using meth taught me everything about freedom, only not like you think. It taught me how easy it is to lose your freedom, how meth can take control until you find yourself doing whatever meth tells you to do. Before you get there, while you still can, take a stand for yourself. If you feel yourself losing your freedom to meth, ask for help. Accept the help. It's worth it. You have the power to be truly free and be the person you want to be. I know. I'm Jan, and I'm free from meth.
If you or someone you know is struggling with meth, call 1-800-662-HELP for 24-hour free and confidential treatment referral. Learn more at samhsa.gov/meth.
Welcome back to a special live edition of ABC-7 Extra Sunday. I also want to welcome back our guest, John Martin, Director of the Opportunity Center for the Homeless. Also joining us is former Border Patrol Chief and former U.S. Representative Silvestre Reyes. Sitting next to him is El Paso Mayor Oscar Leisure and Deputy City Manager Mario D'Agostino. Right now, I want to get to some of those emails that were sent to us, and we want to read what it is that they have to say. First of all, good afternoon. With all the migrant coverage these days, I hear about how hard the Customs and Border Patrol are working, but I don't hear about equally hard the Customs and Border Protection agents are working on the front lines also. Also, all CBP officers, whether Border Protection or Border Patrol, they all are working hard in this heat to protect us all. Our El Paso agents, officers need to know we appreciate them during this very stressful time. Are we letting our Border Patrol agents know just how hard they're working for us, Mr. Mayor?
No, absolutely. And, you know, one of the things that when I talk to Chief Good, they don't have enough people to do the job they've been asked to do. So, you know, the president has said he's going to send an additional 1,500 military men and women to the area. We already have 2,500, and they're going to be administrative. They're not going to, again, they're not going to administer, they're not going to do the immigration law or any part of law enforcement, but they are going to come to assist, because we all know that there's not enough people right here today to be able to do their job. And as they get an area secure, it just continues to move out to the outer areas. Our biggest issue today is talking to Chief Good. It's coming in through Santa Teresa in the New Mexico area, which is all part of the El Paso sector.
Right.
So,
Mr. Reyes, you are famous for Operation Hold the Line, where you essentially had Border Patrol agents pretty much not far apart from each other. Do we need more Border Patrol agents?
Well, it depends if we've got the political will. The biggest thing we need is engagement of the countries that are sending the migrants north into our country. I don't hear of any political effort. I was hopeful that when President Biden appointed the vice president to head his effort on the issue of illegal immigration, that something would get done in terms of where the problem originates in those countries. However, very little has really happened. Okay. You cannot hire enough Border Patrol agents, even if you hired one-on-one to the amount of migrants that are potentially coming into our country. When you ask the question to Mr. Martin about what's going to happen after Title 42 gets lifted, how much bigger the problem is going to get, there are a number of people that study the issue that say it can vary anywhere from 10 to 100 to 1 in terms of the number of migrants that are here now as to how much bigger the problem's going to be. So we have a real mess on our hands, and
which could potentially get worse.
Which will get worse.
Okay, Mr. Let's show you a graphic of what exactly the epicenter is. It shows all the cities where migrants are coming in through. There's a graphic right there, and you can see highlighted El Paso in fiscal year 23, 265,000 migrants, far outpacing any other city. Mr. D'Agostino, are we the epicenter of this migrant crisis, the surge?
You know, that's what we're hearing, and when we're looking at that intel and those same graphs you were showing right there, it does appear that we are the epicenter. We've seen some spikes in South Texas over the last few days, the last week, but the number of people that are supposedly in Juarez waiting to come over, the ones that are in transit to Juarez to come over, and what we currently have already in the streets is expected to expand, and I think that's going to keep us at the epicenter.
Yeah. Mr. Martin, how sustainable are these numbers for volunteer organizations like these so-called non-governmental organizations? How sustainable is this, most especially when you take into consideration that Title 42 is going to expire? How long can we continue this way?
Well, the reality of it is there's a lot of factors that sort of come into this, if you want to look at it as such. But at one point earlier this week, we were curious if we were able to sustain it through Friday, and we've been able to do so at this point. Now, we've taken that step for those that are congregating outside of the Opportunity Center to be able to feed them as well. And so if you think about it, we typically between two shelters will feed up to 200 a day, 3 meals a day. Now we're doing close to 900 to 1,000. And so it does make it extremely difficult. But one of the things that we're very thankful for recently was the fact that we had the emergency declaration, which brought some very good resources in as a result of the American Red Cross. And so we've been able to sort of dovetail, or I should say, come back a little bit on 3 meals a day down to 2, because not only do we have the support from the Red Cross, but we've also got our friends at the food bank, which is El Pasoans Fighting Hunger. But the reality of it is our pantries are starting to get very low, and it's not just simply food. It's access to showers, it's restrooms, basic necessities such as toiletries. It cannot continue in this direction. And it's even further complicated because we've talked about a number of individuals in the back. We did an informal survey just the other day because we were curious of those outside how many actually had an A number. And we were only able to talk to about 250 of them at that point. And I was surprised. The number was close to 41%.
Wow.
But that 41% number that we're looking at, they're relying on what's referred to as a pro se process, which is the I-589. Well, we have learned within the past few days in particular that that is not sufficient for them to travel.
Let's do this. Let's take a look at another email that was sent to us, because we do want to get to some of those emails. They do have some questions. This one right here: why are migrants permitted to stay in the U.S. when they're here illegally and they haven't filed the appropriate documents? That question would probably go to you, Mr. D'Agostino, because, as you well know, you saw the story. A lot of migrants are simply coming in through gaps. They haven't even been processed yet. So what happens to those migrants who don't have any permits whatsoever, who haven't been processed at all?
And that's exactly, as we've discussed, local law enforcement cannot enforce immigration policy. So they cannot enforce those federal laws regarding immigration. And so with that, the migrants, as you talked about in some of your interviews with them down in the streets, they know to stay around the churches, around the shelters.
Claiming so-called sanctuary.
That's exactly it.
However, we do know, and I've spoken to the father down there, sanctuary applies to those who are inside either the gym or inside the church itself, and not to the surrounding area. So what can happen if they're not really claiming sanctuary? They can't claim sanctuary because they're not inside the building itself.
And we've had those discussions with Customs and Border Patrol on how they can enforce that, or how they can react to that. They are taking that whole perimeter area and recognizing that as sanctuary. And so what we're doing is we have protection on the streets. That's to protect our businesses, the community at large that live around there, and the migrants themselves. And that's because we do have these large numbers. But Border Patrol's taking it as that is all a sanctuary area because they're up around the facility.
Mr. Reyes, final thoughts.
Well, I'm sitting here wondering if we're allowed to interpret sanctuary based on the number of people that are not just inside an actual building, but in the surrounding area, then theoretically, the whole city of El Paso is going to be sanctuary, and neighborhoods around the city are all going to be at the mercy of a really de facto policy that does not come from the policymakers that have the control. So if that's the case, then there is not going to be any kind of control that we can rely on.
Mr. Mayor, final thoughts.
You know, the final thought is that they're not coming to El Paso. They're coming to the United States, and it's a border city. We have that responsibility to work with the federal government to help them to get to their final destination. But a lot of them, you know, you were talking to Chief D'Agostino that they're here and they didn't get their A number, they didn't go through the process because they're here under false pretense. When they were coming and they paid to come, they were told that if they got here before Title 42 was expired, they would be legal into the United States after Title 42 is over with. So that's the biggest thing. They're here under false pretense, and now it's up to the federal government and us to really let them know what they need to do to make sure they get their A number and they move forward. And that's what the chief's talking about, that the Border Patrol and ICE is going into Sacred Heart area and starting to register a lot of these asylum seekers.
Is there any action that you'll be taking this week? We do know that you declared a disaster last week. Anything new that you'll be doing this week? We do know that some of the shelters are expected to open this week. Are you going to be taking any of the action this week?
Well, we are renewing effective tomorrow, we are renewing the emergency disaster declaration. But, you know, we do have to look at that we have to continue to keep control of our streets. We need to continue to keep control of our city. And if we have to go a little and ask for additional help from the governor's office, from the president of the United States, we're getting prepared and we'll be able to do that because we need to make sure that our community stays safe and our community is safe at all times, and that's our responsibility to do, and we'll continue to make sure that the citizens of El Paso and the asylum seekers both are safe in the city of El Paso.
Okay, Mr. John Martin, Mr. Reyes, Mayor Leeser, and Mr. D'Agostino, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity.
And I also want to thank you for sending in your questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to any more, but we're just days away from the expiration of Title 42. Many don't know what to expect, but local, state, and federal officials are bracing for a surge. If they cross through El Paso, you can be sure we'll cover it right here on ABC-7. I'll see you again on Good Morning El Paso. For now, good night y buenas noches.
Thank you for watching. ABC-7 News is now available on any of these streaming services, as well as the KVIA News and KVIA Weather and Traffic apps.